Hey everybody, it's me, Kevin, back again with part 3, episode 3, whatever it is, of our Let's Build Cursor series. So, if you haven't been following along, I would recommend go ahead and check out episode 1 or 2. You can watch it fast. But basically what we're doing is going step by step through the process of creating an AI coding agent. All right, so in step 1, we walk through all the basics of how agents are created, all the tools, all the system prompts, things like that. And then in step 2, we actually built out a very basic CLI version of a coding agent. And you guys can go and run it. It's open source. Go check it out. And it works. Like, it actually works. It's kind of cool. But what we want to do for part 3 is make some improvements. So besides just kind of a basic learning tool, we actually want to build a real working agent that can get stuff done for you. And the reason why we're doing this is because in episode 4, the finale, maybe penultimate, we'll see how long it takes me to do it, I actually want to build out a real working tool that can basically pull in all of these techniques and prompts and all the things that I've been showing you guys over the past few weeks. And again, me as a lazy developer, I don't want to keep copying and pasting and going back and forth all these tools. Like, it's so tedious. What I would love to do is to have one interface on top of my cursor coding agent or whatever thing I'm using in the back end, and actually be able to go through, create a task list, see all my tasks, be able to run a bunch of those in parallel. And behind the scenes, it's going to be using this coding agent that we're building. And it'll go through, hopefully it'll take a first pass at it, hopefully it'll get things right. And if it doesn't, no problem. You just click in, you can open up Cursor, you can open up the code in whatever you want, go make some changes and get that back in. So I'm excited about this. Originally we were going to fork VS Code, and I thought, honestly, like, I'm not that excited about doing that. It's kind of boring. It's not the most entertaining thing to watch. So I think this will be kind of a fun experiment, and we'll see. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. That's the fun of this thing. Anyway, I will be going through the process and showing you, and sometimes you can learn as much from my failures as actually getting things right. All right, so speaking of failures, we're going to try this out. We're going to try to make a few improvements to our existing CLI coding agent. So one of the first problems we have with it is, as you saw at the end of the last video, we went through, we created some code, but the problem is, Claude is not perfect at one-shotting code. Often what will happen is, and you'll see this in Cursor all the time, right? You go through, you get a file created, and you get some errors, right? Maybe it's a linter error, maybe there's a TypeScript type that's wrong, there's just a little something that's off, okay? And that's very typical. I found that, I spent a good year building a AI coding agent, which I'll show you in one sec. And one of the biggest problems was, it could get pretty far, but it was that last mile of being able to really get all the details correct that was really kind of a problem. So one way to get around this is we're going to add a tool to basically, and this is specific for TypeScript, is to add this language server in there. So a language server will run. This is what the VS Code, anything is using behind the scenes to basically say, hey, is this program syntactically correct? Is it going to run? And if not, what are some of the errors? Give me some feedback. So we're going to try to add a tool in here so that we can use the language server and catch any potential errors immediately right after the code has been written. So that's one improvement. The other improvement that I want to do is something that all these coding agents do, is create an index of my code base, okay? Now, why do you need to create an index? Well, it's basically a way for you to add some tools that can easily go through your code base and find relevant files and understand how your files connect to each other. There's lots of different tips and techniques and ways you can do that. And this is one thing that I worked on quite a bit with my open source coding agent. So this is it. This is Jacob, just another coding bot. There's lots of things that it does. But one of my favorite parts is, and we've got this nice visualization on top of it. Basically, we take every single file in your code base and we break it down and we give a lot of context about this file. So I will give an example here. So let's just go ahead and click into one of these. So I'm going to try to find, okay, so here's an example. Here's a settings file. We get a high-level overview of what this thing does. And what's nice about this is you can then start to search at different levels. So you can search on this very basic one-sentence overview. We have a much more detailed look at this. So if you wanted to dig deeper and find out more information about this, we can do that. We have all of this information about where is this file being exported, what files is it importing, and the reason to do that is that if it's importing some files, you can basically pull all these together so that the LLM has the full context of everything, including all the different functions that are pulled in here, any of the different information. It just allows the LLM to have so much more context about your code base. The chances that it's going to get the right answer at the end of the day is much higher. And so, again, this is why we do all this indexing, all this stuff. We're using a tool called TreeSitter behind the scenes, which is very popular, very good tool. But we're also going through every one of these files and we're sending it off. I think in this case we're using a 4.0 mini to do this. Nowadays I'll probably use Gemini Flash. It's just faster, cheaper, better. But just use a small model. You can go through this and you can index your code in maybe a minute or so. Get all of these overviews and things like this. And there's lots of really useful things you can do this with this. I'll show you in the next episode more detail. And actually this is a little bit meta, but here's an example of that Codebase context. Here's this file, here's everything it does. You can see all these details. And so basically what I did is I did what I do with pretty much everything at this point, which you guys will see. Very standard. So we basically went through, we grabbed all of our code base, we used our Pacemax, which we created a few episodes ago. Basically, we just pulled in the fork CLI tool that we created in the last episode. We grabbed all these files, all these tokens, we pasted it in up there. I won't scroll up and bother you guys, and then basically we're adding specifically some things that we want here. So we added this language server, and then this is another thing. So Prettier. Basically, we are making the code fit a certain format, so it looks nice for all the other developers using it. You just want to run that through so that you don't get caught with like a Prettier error in that. So, and we're going to simplify this. So we're going to do TypeScript and Node. And when I build my tool next time, you will see I want to simplify this down. I apologize to all the Python developers, but basically what I want to do is build this on top of that open source stack that I've been using, my Next.js starter. And I think that'll just really help to keep things simple but also useful, so that if you want to create a new application, we can build on top of the stack that we already know. It's going to cut down the surface area of errors that we need to worry about, and just really focus on getting things done as quickly as possible and with as few errors as possible. So again, it's not going to be the widest, it's not going to work for everybody, but if you are following along here and you want to use my stack and use my techniques, it should go really fast. And also it's really nice for me because these are my stack and my techniques. So I will get to move faster if nobody else does, so that'll be good for me. But hopefully you guys will get something out of it too. Okay, so anyway, you guys know the drill here. We created a plan. We do the little empty check boxes. Check, 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 check. Right? And so this was basically just starting off with the initial language server. And then I added in this second feature, which is basically this Jacob context file. And basically you can just copy this. This gives you the whole context. It's got a whole bunch of stuff here. It's got the code, it's got the English description, all these things here. So we scroll down here, pasted it in, and we got our list of items. Yay. Okay. So we copy these, and then we move them over, and let's see, we're probably stuck here. Okay, so I kicked this off, and basically all I did is I pasted it into this, I have a docs folder, pasted it into this new features markdown, and just put in my usual prompt. Go through each story, find the next story to work on, just keep going, don't bother me. Okay, so it basically went through the first one, it created this, we added in the TypeScript language server, and that all looks good. I probably should double check this, but am I going to? No. I really should double check it. And I will afterwards, but just for the sake of the video, let's go ahead and move on here. So we added in the language server. We're going to add in the linter here. So we're going to use ESLint here. It's going to go through here. This should be pretty fast. This is a pretty basic thing to do. And same thing for Prettier. All right, so basically we're going through, we are adding those things in there, and then we want this workflow. So then every time we go ahead and edit the file or create a new file, we want to run these checks, okay? We want to run the LSP diagnostics, ESLint, and then Prettier. Actually, we should probably do those in a different order. I usually run Prettier first, and then we can do the other things. I guess it doesn't really matter, but we'll do that. Okay, and then, yes, and then if there's errors that are found, it's going to go through and fix those. And yeah, actually we don't want to prompt the user. We actually want to provide a summary of issues and have the agent fix them. Sure. Yeah. Don't bother the user. Agent knows what to do, right? So we'll do that. And then what else here? This all looks good. We're going to add some configuration supplies. Okay, so this is good. And then what we're doing here for this next, that Codebase context thing is this index. So we want a command to be able to index our Codebase, okay? So we'll go ahead and, I'm just gonna have this be manual for now. When we build the front end on top, we'll just be able to pass this flag in. It'll index things. The way I had Jacob work is basically every time there was a call to this, we basically save a hash of that file. And so you basically take the file, you do a hash. If nothing's changed, don't bother indexing it, right? This is a not expensive operation, but expensive enough that like, basically you want to run it once, have it go through, take a few minutes to get everything just right. And then from then on, if you change one or two files, just fix those one or two. And it's really kind of fast and easy, and you get the benefits of having this nice LLM-ified version of your code base. And again, there's lots of really neat things you can do with this. I'll show you a few of those, but my favorite trick there is basically, kind of going through like what I do with repo prompt or paste max or any of these tools, where you basically want to find what are the relevant files for a given task. Now, if your code base is small like this, you can just select them all, right? Once your code base gets larger, this is no longer an option, okay? And so one thing that's actually a really neat trick is you can go through and take all of those one-sentence descriptions of every single one of your files. That's very small. You can fit that into a context window of something like a Gemini. Send it off to Gemini and say, hey, Gemini, here's my task. Here's all of the files in my code base. Give me the top 50, 100, whatever it is, that you think might be relevant here. And so it'll go out and it'll basically do all of this work automatically. It'll, instead of you manually having to go through and choose and pick the ones, no, it'll just go through and give you the top 50 or so. Maybe you have too many, it doesn't really matter. All you want to do is make sure that within that net, you're catching like the core files. You don't want to go too much, because then you're just kind of wasting context space and time and effort and money. So you try to find a sweet spot there. Usually I found 50 to 100, it's usually pretty good. And that's just a really nice way to kind of automate this step, so that instead of me having to go through and copy and paste and blah, 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 the LLM will just do it automatically, and then that scales to very, very large code bases, and it's a really nice way to handle all that. So anyway, and we can see here, look, it's running the linter. So this is, you can see how nice this is. If you don't have this and you have to go through and like fix all these, like what a pain, okay? So this is one of the nice things about Cursor, one of the nice, it's built directly into VS Code, so you get some of that stuff for free, but you can also just pull in these packages and just have it run on your CLI. All right, so I'm going to end the video here. I'll post up these updates once they're done. We'll put them in the CLI tool. Honestly, they're not that exciting to see. Really, I'm setting the stage for the next video where we're going to build out a real useful AI coding agent that I am very excited about. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you all next time.